Hello everybody, how you all doing? Me? I'm doing fantastic, thanks for asking. It's back to life, back to reality. Yeah, the headache's gone and I've been, what's the day today? The 7th. Okay, so this is day 7 without having a sip of beer or wine. Yesterday I didn't have any coffee at all, I think maybe even the day before. Feeling really good. So I was actually worried that not having the coffee would damage my chess, seeing as yesterday I sucked ass at chess. So my blitz rating just took a real tumble. But anyway, so I woke up this morning, and there's a blues song in that. I woke up this morning, and this is me uncaffeinated, and I feel really chipper. This is cool. So yeah, pulled out the iPad, and so what I'm doing now is just to share. I'll have a couple of games of 5+5. 5+5 is really interesting because a 5+5 game, you could use 10 minutes of your time in a 5+5 game, right? 5+5 games very often can go on as long or longer than a 10-minute rapid game. So it's kind of similar, right? If you want to train for that rather than, 3-minute, 5-minute blitz. So I did 3 or 4 5+5. I think I've lost 1. And then I went on and did a rapid game and I won. Okay, so anyway, there's a lot of interesting little ideas and tactics. I've pulled out 4 games from this morning that I want to take you through, and we'll do it fairly quickly, but we'll try and focus on kind of key points, key ideas to help you to improve your play. So this is me in 5+5, so I'm rated 1266, trying to get back up to 1300. And my opponent is called Forget Everything from Australia. So e4, e5, where are we going? It's either going to be Denmark or Vienna. It's Vienna. Semi-copycat, out comes the bishop. And you'll very often see this with an opponent who is not familiar with the Vienna. We'd like to see this, because then we can play this queen g4 idea and attack g7, but you'll most often see both knights coming out. So the computer doesn't like this move. It's the more aggressive move. Okay, so black here takes, and now I think d4 is playable, but I think knight f3 is solid. d4 is playable because the knight's in the way of the queen, right? Although Freddie's gone, so we'd have time to put the knight there if we needed to. Okay, anyway, so now the knight comes in. And now, dickhead over here thinks, I spy with my little eye a nice little attack on f7. So, because he's moved his knight out the way, blah, 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 I'm going to put my knight here and attack f7. My opponent, who lives on the opposite side of the world and is therefore awake, spots that I've just moved my knight into a square where it's attacked by the queen and grabs my queen. Oh dear, this isn't good, precious. So, what do we do here? All right, it's looking a bit hairy. My opponent actually has a development lead now because he's developed his queen and destroyed my knight in one go. So, I want to get my king safe. I want to develop my pieces. Short castles, okay? This is such a powerful move and such an important move to remember in the Vienna. Any time that you've got rid of the f-pawn. Okay, so my opponent now brings out his bishop and gives check. Oh no. So I move my king here. Now what I think he should do here is put his rook in there, forking king and queen, force me to take with the rook, and then capture the rook. So he basically goes up the exchange. Okay, and then he's also got a bishop in here. He can put like his queen here, bishop here, come in for the kill. That's what he should do. Okay, but he doesn't do that. He brings in his other knight. Okay, and now this maybe gives me an opportunity to get out of, maybe at least get out of the fork, right? So But what I play is this, and this stops the pawn coming forward. So I play d3. There's not... I mean, the fork now is no longer on, actually, because I can just take it, because he's actually blocked the bishop's control of that square. So it's like he's following a principle. So he's thinking, oh, let's bring more material into the attack, right? I've got this development lead, I've got 4 pieces out in the board compared to my opponent's 2. Let's crush in with my stuff, okay? But tactically, it's not really working out, okay? Because d3 now defends his pawn, defends his bishop, pins this pawn on the queen, yeah? And now I've actually got 2 attackers on that pawn as well. So, not the smartest move. So he moves his queen now here. Okay, so clearly he's got ideas of checkmating me, which is perfectly respectable. Yeah, I get that, okay? But now, bishop takes f7 check, right? And now I'm thinking I've got opportunity. So the other move that I've got in mind is this. Bishop takes f4, and then the bishop defends h2. Right, so I'm doing 2 things at once, okay? But first, I've got this. Now, if king takes, I've then got rook takes with check, okay? And the king has to move. And I've got a bishop defending this square and a queen defending this square, okay? So let's say king takes, I capture with check. King's either got to move or he's got to block, okay? If he blocks with the knight, he loses his queen, right? If he blocks with this knight, I take it, for example, right? But more than likely, king's going to move out the way, and then I can grab this knight for free, attack the queen again, and happy days, okay? So the king moves out of the way, and now I do this. So that was an in-between move, right? Because I could play that move for free, and I still had time, because the move came with tempo. You know, anytime you give check, your opponent has to respond to the check. No ideas are possible. No other ideas. Okay, so now he attacks my bishop. Now this bishop is vital, right? I can't, for example, just move it out the way because I'll get checkmated. So bishop g3, defended by the pawn, hits the queen. This bishop's guarding quite a few squares, and I'm feeling not too bad now. So the queen now moves to here, which of course is a blunder, and loses his queen and the game. Hooray! So that one I think we can put in the library under desperate rescues, right? You lose a minor piece and come back to win the game. Happy days. Okay, now this one, stabilo. This one, painful, but a good lesson. So pay attention. Okay, so what are we playing right now? The Grand Prix. Meow. The Grand Prix version. Okay. And now we have g6. This is a book move. I bring out my knight. Fianchetto's his bishop. So he's playing like, this is the Sicilian dragon, isn't it? I guess on his side of the board. That's his kind of setup. Okay, so now I push my pawn to d3. And we have some normal development. My bishop comes out here. I want to castle. I want to put my queen on e1. Okay, so castles. And now I decide to go for it. Right? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling chipper. Let's throw Harry up the board. Right? Anytime you've got this set up, Harry is an idea. Attacking Harry. Okay. The other one, of course, is queen and bishop trying to dislodge that guy and create a lot of gaps that the wind can blow through in his corner. Okay, knight comes out, knight goes in. So I'm feeling quite aggressive now. Knight comes in. This is a move I see a lot, especially when this knight moves. So actually I decide, second thoughts, I'm going to bring my knight back. And then he plays this key move. Now, knight to here. And now I do something which is all too common in chess, particularly at the beginner level. Okay. I miss something. And what I miss is that, and you've just got to tell the story. What just changed? Right, knight move from there to there, therefore the queen is now attacking Harry. Harry is defended by this knight. Okay. So I now play bishop e3 to attack this knight, thinking I've got 2 attackers only one defender. Oh, no, 2 defenders. Right. Then he takes out my knight. I recapture. Oh no, Harry. Oh my god, they killed Harry, you bastards. Okay? So for some reason then, I play g3, queen takes, I come here, knight comes in. Okay? I take the knight, bishop takes, checkmate. And that was all over within like 45 seconds or something like that from losing Harry. Okay? And it just goes to show critical importance, right? Okay, the queen's now attacking that. Okay, and if you're going to move the pawns around your king from in front of your king, the king's personal bodyguard, as I said in a chess lesson the other day, if you imagine the Secret Service guys around the president when they're out in public, right, they are close. It is the bodyguard. They want to be close next to the king to prevent the king from getting hurt. And this is what these pawns do. So you can move these pawns, you can use them, you can attack with them, that's fine. But just make sure that they are protected. Now, so here, I mean, I couldn't have done this because then knight takes this with a fork. G3 might have been an idea at this point in time, because at any point, right, that knight is under attack, and that knight is the only defender of this pawn. Okay, that's the pattern. Only one defender, that is potential weakness. Can the attacker be removed? Yes, indeed. Okay, and then I literally just collapsed from that point. Okay, so something I need to work on, something I need to improve. Okay, let's move on to game number 3. Okay, here, so this is my rapid game. Okay, so this is a 10-minute game, and I have the black pieces, and my opponent starts with d4, and I am playing right now, I'm trying to play the Budapest Gambit. If you get c4 and d4, and these can happen in any order, so your opponent might play the English, in which case you can still do the same thing. Because a lot of d4 players will follow it with c4. A lot of c4 players will follow it with d4. So you can transpose. Okay, and now the move is e5. Takes, which is probably the best move. And knight to g4. And this looks really bad for black, you know, in general. And the computer doesn't like it. But there are some great traps. Okay, so obviously you're attacking this pawn. And your opponent thinks, because he's a decent player, he's 1468 rapid or whatever, 1450, 1470 actually at this point. He thinks, okay, well, this is an opportunity for me to develop and defend. Okay, the other move is this. Now, if they play bishop out, you play knight c6 straight away and add a second attacker to this pawn. Okay. However, if they play the knight out first, you have another move, which is bishop c5. So you're getting your bishop out into the board. And this is an immediate threat because you are threatening either bishop takes f2 with check, forcing the king out, or knight takes f2 with a fork on rook and queen. Okay, so e3 is pretty much forced at this point, and now he can't play this move to defend the pawn. So he has actually no other ways of defending the pawn other than queen here, and that's a whole nother line, right? So we now play knight c6, and what's he got, right? The only way to defend the pawn, I think, is this. So he hits my knight, I retreat this knight and capture the pawn. And now look, 3-1 in development, okay? And I've got my pawn back, okay? So Budapest Gambit, not so shaky after all. Now we have knight d2. And I play my bishop. Yes, I'm moving it a second time, but moving it to b4 to pin this knight. Why am I pinning this knight? Well, my knight is only one of 2 defenders of that knight. And if this knight is pinned, right, and I capture this knight with check, okay, he either has to move his king, which is not brilliant, or he has to capture with the g-pawn, giving himself 3 pawn islands. Right, doubled up pawns here, no king safety on the king side. Okay, so he can't have that, so he captures my knight, and I capture his knight in return. And still, I've got 2 pieces out on the board. He's got 1, but it's also pinned. So, not too great. He pushes the pawn forward to defend c4, I castle. There were kind of options here, but I thought castling just kind of made sense. Queen out, and then move either the d pawn or the b pawn, maybe fianchetto the bishop, maybe bring the bishop out here. You know, plenty of ideas. This bishop's sitting pretty there for now. So he develops a bishop, getting ready to castle, and I decide to break through in the centre with d5. He doesn't capture, he attacks my knight instead. And now here I think rook e8 might have been the best move. I actually played knight back to g6 with ideas of here and then attacking here, right? But I think rook e8 would have been perfectly good, because then again, if he trades and I trade, I've got a rook out in the board ready to come over and, you know, cause trouble, partner up with the queen. That's all good. So maybe that might have been a better move. But I play my knight back here. Charlie Boy castles over there. And now, because h3 has been played, right, so always look out for, if they castle kingside and they've moved their h-pawn, okay, h-pawn becomes a target. Why? Because it's only defended by Gary. And what do we know about Gary? Gary is in front of the king. So if we can put a piece majeure on here, right, attacking down there, then this pawn is actually hanging. And this pawn is already under attack by the bishop. Okay, so queen g5. And the simple plan is capture Harry, right? And this pawn can't recapture. And then we've got a bishop on here, queen there, checkmate. Okay, so he's got to do something. Something must be done. Knight to f3. Now, and this is a jolly good move, okay? And it's annoying, because now he's hitting my queen. My queen can't go there because of Harry. My queen can't go there because of Freddie, right? My queen can't stay where she is because of Horsey. And this is annoying. Now, what I should have done here is I should have said, okay, if I put my queen here, yeah? So I got too excited about my plan, right? And I didn't ask the question, which is on the checklist, okay? If I do this, what's my opponent's best response? Okay? Well, I discovered my opponent's best response, which is knight there. So what I should have done here is take out the knight, first of all, queen recaptures, then queen here. And then he hasn't got that knight option. Okay, but I didn't do that. I rushed. Premature attaculation, as Simon Williams would say. Okay? Oh, bugger. So now my queen has to go all the way back to d8, and I've just lost tempo, and he's really improved his knight. Okay? Proper defensive knight now in front of the king, exactly where it should be. Annoying. So now his queen comes in, and what's he thinking? Obviously, okay, queen g7 mate. Rule number 1, king safety. Okay, so we've got to do something about this. Simply f6. Cut off the diagonal. He takes a free pawn. Now I bring my bishop back to d6. It's not looking at anything there. It's just attacking a load of fresh air. So pointless. Okay. Now maybe we've got ideas of drop the bishop back, queen in front of the bishop and straight in. That's not the quickest maneuver in the world. It's got quite a lot of fiddling around. So my other thought then is fianchetto the bishop. Okay, put the bishop on b7, stick him on this diagonal, and have ideas down there. Okay, so his bishop comes in, I attack the queen, queen moves across, now I attack the queen again with my knight, which, you know, is a little bit too far back, and we trade knights. Okay, so yeah, now I've got an isolated pawn here, but I've got a semi-open f-file. My bishop is in line with the king. Okay, so this is the idea. We're layering up possibilities for the future. And sooner or later, a couple of these possibilities might intersect and create a genuine attacking opportunity. This is not an attack, right? This is the possibility of an attack, right? This is a tactical or strategic maneuver. Okay, He grabs the pawn. So now he's actually up 2 pawns at this point in time, but I have the dynamic advantage. I've got 7 minutes on the clock at this point. He's down to 5.5. So out comes the queen again. Now that the knight is gone, and again this attack is on. Never be too proud to repeat a move if it's the right move, right? And this is such a powerful kind of motif to have in your mind when you're playing chess. Is it the right move? Just got to be really pragmatic. I'm going to play the right move, even if it's ugly, even if it's weird, right? Even if it's a sacrifice, even if I'm moving my piece back, the same piece a third time. If it's the right move, play the right move, right? So you come up with your candidate moves, you decide which is the right one, and you play it. Emotionless, you play it. Okay, now, he now plays d6. And this is a weird move, and it stopped me in my tracks a bit. I had to think 38 seconds on this, because I'm thinking, well, the bishop's still undefended, right? It was undefended here. I knew I was attacking the bishop, and then he does this. And I'm thinking, oh, the bishop's still undefended, but then I realised when I tried to take it, bang, bang, wouldn't let me take it, because I'm in check. Okay, so it took me a moment. Okay, so I moved. And then he brings his bishop back. So, he was a bit smarter in that case. So now I simply drop the queen back to g6. I want to leave the queen on the g file because I still want this idea. So now what can he do? He attacks my rook. All right. So, what would you play now? Okay, we're always got to be thinking about forcing moves, right? Like Levy-Rosman says, danger levels. Okay, he's attacking my rook. Now your beginner will go, oh no, my rook, rook b8, without thinking. Okay, he'll go, oh no, I have to save my rook. How can I save my rook? I have one move, rook b8, stop thinking, play the move. Okay, and that would, in this case, would be an error, because we have a better move, and the better move is duh. Light squared bishop takes h3. Why? Because if Nobed here wants to capture my rook, that's fine. Queen g2 checkmate. So ain't nothing you can do. Okay, now he can take the rook. Ah, yes, but now again, he was clever, because he went, aha. Right, now, what I just told you was completely wrong. Now, if queen takes g2, it's not checkmate at all, is it? Because the bishop's on the same diagonal, bishop can come back. So now, I have to capture the bishop. Fortunately, I spotted it, okay? And now, he thinks, well, what can I do? Okay, have to defend somehow, right? And he simply blunders. He's played a couple of really, really good moves, and then he plays this. With 4.5 minutes left on his clock out of a 10-minute game, he plays this move and blunders his queen, and, and then resigns. What he should have played is this, okay? Which defends that and attacks the rook, okay? So, very interesting. So, that's game number 3. I'll show you one other blitz game I played before that as well, because it's interesting and instructive, particularly if you're a Vienna player. Okay, now, so we have the Vienna Gambit position, play the Vienna Gambit. Okay, now here my opponent knows exactly what to do. And he's playing these moves in 1 second flat, right? So, this is not cheating in any way. He's 1279-ish in blitz, and he knows the correct response to the Vienna Gambit, which is d5, okay? So I take, he takes, I play queen f3, the Paulson attack, right? Now the normal continuation here is knight c3, that's what we get, and then you recapture with a b pawn. Now he plays the immediate c5. Now I knew there's something in my noggin that said, you don't play d4 here, right? And indeed, that is exactly what it says in my notes. It says, don't play d4. Okay? The correct move actually is very unintuitive and unnatural looking. It's queen to g3. And queen g3, right, defends this pawn, attacks this pawn, and ties this bishop down to the defense of that pawn. So if this bishop comes out, right, from the queen here, you capture that, rook has to move here, get a pawn, and, you know, blow open the game. Now, dickhead over here plays d4, which is incorrect, and there's a reason. Because at some point, if we trade, and this looks like fine, it's like, okay, I've now got 2 pawns in the center again, I'm happy, you know, so I've given up my f pawn, but my opponent has no e pawn, and that's better for me. But when you recapture with this diagonal towards your king is wide open, and your opponent has options to exploit, both with the queen and with the dark squared bishop. So he's got 2 attackers on here, so I bring out my bishop, he takes, I recapture. And now bishop comes out here. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's why. Now I remember, you know. So I have retreat my bishop. And now this pawn is hanging, okay. But bishop takes d2, king takes d2. Now my king's been forced to move, and the queens are still on the board, and this pawn is hanging. Not great. Now he gives up the free pawn, which I think in instances like this, it's a central pawn, it's in front of the king, take the blooming pawn, and it comes with an attack on the queen as well. Right? He can take the pawn, he can retreat to here if he wants to, or he can retreat to here, protected by the bishop as well. He's got plenty of options, or he can just go back to where he came from and attack this pawn. Right? He should have taken the pawn, I think. So I now play c3 and shore up all of this. Okay? And we've also got same coloured bishops, it's worth noting. Now, there's a tactic here. So, what's he thinking and what is the threat? Okay? So pause if you need. The threat is knight takes d4. Why? Again, it's what we've seen. It's defended only by 1 pawn, and this pawn is now pinned. It's iced. Okay? This pawn is not defending this pawn because it's pinned. A pinned piece is not defending anything. So he's threatening this, hitting my queen, you know, which is the move he probably should have played before. So I just move my queen across to defend this pawn. Okay, but now you would take black in this situation. Yeah, material is equal, but you know, so I mean, let's evaluate. So black has a castle king, very solid, and his bodyguard is in place. Okay, he has 2 pieces developed in the board. White, on the other hand, yes, has maybe more control of over the centre, but with opposite coloured pawns to opponent's bishop, is behind on development with only a queen developed, right? And this rook is pretty much stuck in. You would take black in this situation. Now bishop comes in. Not much of a direct threat at this point. So I say, well, do you want to trade bishops? He goes, fair enough. Okay. So this is all okay. Now his rook comes there. Don't quite know what it's doing here because this pawn isn't pinned, this pawn could capture. So I now develop my knight, finally complete development, and connect my rooks. Yeah, so a bit of a funny couple of moves from my opponent here. And now maybe this is the idea. He pushes f6. But again, dubious, right? It's definitely a blitzy move. You wouldn't expect to see this move from a nearly a 1300 in a rapid game. I just capture the pawn, and his only way to recapture is with the g pawn. And now, you know, look at this. He's just opened up his king. Now, I push g4, right? Because what I want to do, I want to eradicate all the stuff on this side of the board. I want to get my rooks involved. I want to get my queen in, you know? I want to kill him before he kills me. Now his rook comes down, looks at the pawn. I'm unimpressed. g5. Right? I'm going to take your f pawn. If you take me, I take you back with my knight and attack your rook. So I'm very happy now. And you know what? If this rook moves somewhere, I've got queen here, wins the game. And he finds this, which is beautiful. Look at this, okay? So he's pinning my queen against my king, okay? I can't capture the rook because of the pinned pawn. If I capture the rook, knight recaptures. So what would you do in this situation? Capture the rook, right? So I go down a big fat exchange, which is rook for a queen. However, I mean, and this ought to be a dead lost situation, right? My opponent's got 3 minutes 39, I'm on 2 minutes 48, and I'm down 5. Okay, he's got an extra pawn and he's got a queen for a rook. However, rook g1, okay, there may be hope in this. King goes into the corner to avoid a discovered check, but what has he missed? All together now. Knight f7 is checkmate, right? So you can see the sloppy moves there, can't you? You know, and a lot of moves that maybe you or I would think about and consider, but you can see why they were sloppy. So in the end, having his extra queen was worth nothing because he just rushed. You know, he took actually 14 seconds over that last move. Okay. Now here also, let's say, you know, I could also have moved my other rook across to here as well, and then that also would have been checkmate in one, because then he can't move into the corner because of the knight. So yeah, very, very happy to win that, and that one is also going into desperate rescues, because that's a beauty. Don't know if it's not a smothered mate, is it? No, it's just a really nice checkmate little puzzle there. So there you go. That was my morning in chess. Very happy to be feeling a lot more energetic, and also energy levels a lot more steady. So maybe you're like me. Maybe you're somebody who thinks, oh, you know, I need my coffee to be able to play. It's a new year. You know, you might want to give it a try going without the coffee. But there is obviously an adjustment period. He even had this at one point as well. So, you know, I really, really got through that one by the skin of my teeth, absolutely. But you know, thing to remember from this, that move. You don't play that move. And I knew it. And then when I went back and checked my notes after the game, it's like, no, don't play that. Instead of that, you play this, okay? So in fact, let's just check the game review and see what that says, because I'm personally interested to know. It's going to say I was worse, because I got lucky. Yeah. Actually, it said I played better, because he did play some inaccurate moves. 2 blunders each. Okay, let's go through. Best book move, yes, 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 yes. B takes c3 is best. And now white is slightly better. Okay, c5 is excellent. And d4 is a mistake. I knew it. Best move, right, queen g3. Now again, white is slightly better. So we are tying this bishop down to the defense of that. Okay, we're also defending this pawn. We're not in the way of the knight. We're not in the way of the bishop to come out. Bishop could come out here or here or here, you know. And then at some point, hang on. So how do we defend against these ideas? So we do want to play. We definitely want to play d4 at some point, but maybe the idea is just castle, yeah. And then you get the d4 in, and then you rebuild your pawn center. So let's have a look at the line. Yeah. Develop knight, develop bishop, and then from here, I don't know, so you can't go there. Queen might go here or here, or even here. I mean, that's an option. Could trade queens. So from this position, yeah, interesting. But then the point is, yeah, get the king safe, get the rook on the f file, like normal, and then you do this. Trade off, build your pawns back up, all solid. Okay, so there you go. So I just got better at chess today. Hope you did too. Okay, and I hope you picked up one or two things from this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Chess Bootcamp if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you soon.